Good morning. Today we're gonna discuss and work around the positioning of people, vehicles, assets, whatever is on the ground or is flying. I think it's very important because, as you will see, depending on the position of people, depending on the position of tourists, depending on the position of buses, trains, and so on, you can offer services, you can give information, you can analyze presences, and so on. So today I will start from GPS, which is something that you probably know. A little bit more of details. I will give you more details of what you probably already know, and then I will speak about the position of people using their mobile devices. I think it's, as you will see, it's quite interesting because I will also share with you some use cases of this data. In our geomatic lab, we analyzed the Barcolana using this data. We analyzed the Friuli Dock event, which is a 3-4 days event that happens in autumn here in Udine, and we also analyzed what happens during a rainy day in a seaside resort. So during the summer, people on the beach, if it rains for the whole day, what is the people doing? What's happening? What are they visiting? Depending on the country of where they are from, and so on. So let's start talking about GPS. So GPS is something that you probably already heard. GPS is now it's little. In the past it was big. Anyway, it's a little device that is almost everywhere. It's in your car, it's in your telephone, it's in your tablet, it's wherever you can imagine. It starts being inserted in the home appliances, so in the freezer, in the washing machine, and so on, because the company, first of all, what is the goal of this device? The goal is to understand the position of, in this case, the GPS receiver. So a GPS is a little device, a little electronic tool that connecting with a global, in this case, a global positioning system. So it's in this, I think that for GPS there should be 31 satellites, which are 20,000 kilometers from the Earth. The only thing, this satellite constellation has been, let's say, organized, paid, and sent in the space by the US Defense Department in the 70s to support the US military during the wars. So the goal of this system, as I told you, is to let any little GPS receiver know its position on the Earth. So the GPS of your smartphone, there is a GPS inside. The GPS of your smartphone in real time continuously checks the signal coming from the satellites, and using this signal, as you can see in this image here, the one on the left, on the right, sorry. It uses some triangulation algorithms to understand the exact position on the Earth, so latitude and longitude of your smartphone. There are a few things that need to be said. This is the, let's say, your smartphone. It is receiving information from satellite, and the satellites of the GPS constellation are only sending a signal. So they continuously send a signal. The receiver, using this signal of at least 3 satellites, because in order to do triangulation you need at least 3 satellites. If your smartphone, the GPS in your smartphone can receive at the same time the signal of at least 3 satellites, he is able to calculate the exact position of your smartphone on the Earth, so latitude and longitude. If the satellites are less than 3, it will give you a position, but it's not a correct position. It can have an error, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, depends. The more satellites your telephone, the GPS of your telephone is receiving signal from, and the more precise is the position. Why do we use the GPS? Why do we have the GPS on our smartphone? Well, first of all, because we use, for example, navigation systems. So we use Google Maps, and in order to go from here to Gorizia, Google Maps needs to know where you are, where your smartphone is. And in order to know where your smartphone is, you need to use the GPS which is in your smartphone. You need to check that you want to allow Google know your position anytime you use Google Maps. And so Google Maps, if you insert an address of the city of Gorizia, will tell you, look, you are now here. To get to Gorizia, this is the best road. So this is one sample of the use of the GPS in your smartphone. But the GPS in your smartphone is also useful when you lose your smartphone. So as you know, there are apps or there are applications on PC that allows you to search your lost or the smartphone who has been stolen to you. And if the GPS is on and if the functionality locate my device is flagged, you can see your smartphone using the PC. You connect to an application and you can see where your smartphone is in this moment. Okay? So this is another sample. There are lots of samples of use of the GPS. we insert, we have, let's say, companies producing applications that that are tracking vehicles. So, for example, all the taxis, taxis are tracked. So there is someone back office that can see which is the closest taxi to a certain address, and if it's free, he sends him the call of the person who's waiting for the taxis. Fleet, the ambulances are tracked, so back office in the hospital, they know where the ambulance is, what he's doing, and so on. Why was it used in the past, and why did the US Defense did such an expensive system? Because it's really an expensive system. Because when a military is on field, a soldier is on field in a desert, in the mountain, knowing the position, having a map, a paper map or a digital map, he knows where he is, and knowing where he has to go, he could choose the best way to not to find some let's say soldier looking for him, okay? So up to 2003, the system, the GPS system, the global positioning system of the US Defense was public. And so you say, okay, but if it was public, also the enemy could use the GPS position. Yes, it was public, but the US soldier had maximum position in the GPS, while the signal of the satellite were modified in order all the other people using the GPS were the GPS of all the other, also the enemies, were calculating the position, but the position had some, let's say, mistake, so you did not get the real precise position, but you were getting a position with an error of 100 meters, 200 meters, 500 meters, so it was not very precise. Another reason why the GPS was used was, for example, to insert the GPS in a bomb. The bomb was shooted from very far away. You were programming the position the bomb should reach, and the engine of the bomb were directing the flight of the bomb in order to reach that exact building, that exact vehicle, that exact position. And while with the enemy could not do this because the error was 200 meters, 300 meters, so you could not, let's say, insert the position of a building and be sure that the bomb would have reached the building. In 2000, I think it was 2003, Bill Clinton, let's say, cancelled the error in the satellite signal and gave everybody the opportunity, worldwide, the opportunity to have a precise position for using the GPS constellation. Position, as I told you, satellite tracking, view real-time position of the vehicle, view route taken during the day, view any event, stop, etch, opening, historicize the information. So this is, for example, a solution of satellite tracking that I will share with you later. I will show you how this type of solution are working. This is a couple of samples of devices that are inserted in your car, in your truck, if you want to track, if you want to know where your truck or where your car has gone. So, for example, here in Italy, the majority of the companies collecting garbage, so the trucks that are collecting garbage, are using satellite tracking because the municipality that gives you the money to collect the garbage wants to know if you really went in a certain road at a certain time to collect the garbage, because they receive, the municipality receives the phone call from a citizen saying it's 3 days that my garbage box is not emptied. And so the municipality, using this kind of application, can verify if some truck went in the last 3 days in that street, and if it stopped in front of the box, of the garbage box of this citizen. I told you there are lots of samples, ambulances, fire brigades, all the police cars have GPS on board because someone wants to know exactly the position of the car whenever. The airplane have GPS on board. Let's see if I can show you very quickly something which is interesting. This is an application. I will insert the link in the documentation that shows you nearly real time all the airplane flying now worldwide. So if you go in Milan Malpensa, this is Milan Malpensa, and these are the flights arriving and departing from Milan. This is a flight departing from Milan. It's Charles de Gaulle, Paris, Florence. As you can see, it is arriving from Paris. It was not stopped in Milan. Scheduled, actual, estimated. This flight is Brussels-Malpensa. So it arrived from Brussels. It is flying over Malpensa, and very soon it will land. So all the airplanes have a GPS position, a GPS that is sending information to Earth in order to control all the flights. As you can see, it's really amazing. Now, let's say Tokyo, because Tokyo now is it's day. So as you can see here, while in the States at 9 o'clock in the morning it's night, so probably if we go to Atlanta, very few flights are on. In Tokyo, it's I don't know, it will be midday, no, probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And these are all the flights, all the airplanes around Tokyo. This is Sydney, Tokyo. This flight is arriving from Sydney. Okay, this is possible because all the airplanes have a GPS. Okay? There are a lot of other functionalities in flight radar, and it's quite interesting, but you will have the opportunity to see it. Couple of more interesting. So first of all, I want to stress one thing. The GPS is a receiver. So this object, the object which is inside your phone, whose name is GPS, is a receiver installed on the device. Okay? Receiver installed on the device. Then the receiver calculates the position, and in the airplane, for example, there is some system that gets from the GPS the position of the airplane and send it to the control room or whatever. In the truck, these objects have inside a GPS and a GSM modem and the telephone. So the GPS is receiving the signal from the satellite and calculate the position. Then he gives the position to the telephone, let's say to the modem, to the telephone modem, and this telephone modem sends the position to the control room. So the GPS is only receiving and calculating the position. Then there are other systems connected with the GPS that sends information of the position. And so you see the airplane moving every 2-3 seconds, because every 2-3 seconds the new position is sent. One more interesting thing on the GPS is that in order to work, the GPS needs to see the horizon. The horizon, so inside a room, inside this room, the GPS is not working. When you are in a forest, the GPS is not working because the tree coverage, the leaves of the tree are covering the horizon, the horizon, and so your telephone is not receiving the signal of the satellites. Sometimes it happens that you receive the signal and you have a position, but very often in this situation the position is not precise, but can have some 10 meters, 100 meters of mistakes. In the room, when you are inside the building, it can happen that it works, but it works because from the window the signal of the satellite is somewhere entering the room. It's having some let's say, it's reflected by the walls, so you have probably the GPS working if you are in a room with windows, but also there the precision is very low. If you are in a room, in a garage, or in a place without window, the GPS is not working. Okay, this is very important. And this is a reason why when you are indoor, there are other ways to locate and to track your device. There are lots of different ways which I think are very important and are very interesting for the, let's say, in the tourist field, because it's very interesting for a museum to understand how people is moving, where people is stopping, in front of which portrait they are stopping 5 minutes, and in front of which portrait they are stopping 20 seconds. And how do they move inside the room of a museum? How do people move inside an airport? This is very interesting in order to organize the services in the airport, in order to position in the best places the paintings and so on. So we people have been working on trying to bypass the problem that the GPS indoor is not working. So the first way to locate a device indoor is installing an app on the device. So you let the people entering a museum installing the app of the museum. So very often you go to a museum, you go to a show, you go to an airport, and you have the app of the airport, you have the app of the trade show, you have the app of the museum. Of course, the goal of the app of the museum is to give you information on the different areas, on the different rooms, on the different paintings, and so on. But this app is also collecting the position, all your movements inside the museum. And this movement, if you flag that you allow the museum to know how you have been moving inside the museum, these movements can be downloaded to someone who wants to analyze how the people is moving, how do the people is moving inside the different rooms of the museum. So, how do the app calculates the position of your position inside a museum? There are two different ways that I will discuss with you later during this lesson or in the next lesson. The first one is using the Wi-Fi repeaters that you have in the rooms. So in a certain room you have two Wi-Fi repeaters, and the app, using the strength of the signal coming from the Wi-Fi router that are in the room, can calculate your position. So if you are 3 meters from that router and 2 meters from that router, you are approximately there. If you are 50 centimeters from that router and 4 meters from that router, you are very, very likely closer to that area. So, of course, the precision is not centimeters, but even if the mistake is half meter, it's okay. But of course, the app knows that you have been sitting in front of a painting without moving for 5 minutes, and that you have been standing 20 seconds in front of the other painting. So that was more interesting for you than this one, okay? Why? if all the people is behaving that way, then the reason will be that probably that painting is much more famous or whatever, or they understand that the light of the room is in that direction, that painting is really very illuminated in the right way, and so the people is fascinating from the painting, while in that corner there is no light, and the painting, the people is not seeing the colors and so on, and so they don't stop. So very often, when they get this data, to understand if the reason why the people is stopping is because the painting is more famous, or because the position is better than the other one, they switch the position of the paintings, so they move that painting in that area and that painting in the other area, and see if the people is behaving for one more week in the same way. If they go on stopping 5 minutes there and 20 seconds there, the reason is the position. If they switch and they stop 5 minutes here and 20 seconds there, the reason is, let's say, the painting itself and not the position of the painting. But this is interesting. So the positioning inside the museum can be done through the Wi-Fi routers or through objects called iBeacon. So these are very, let's see if I can find, sorry, we are talking about this, I need to find, okay, so here, I already showed you, I think in the first lesson, the indoor street view of Google, for example, of the central station of Milano. So you have all the systems, and you can upload an app that allows you to do navigation, not to go from Udine to Gorizia, but to go from the restaurant or from the McDonald's of the airport to the gate 35. So you can have this kind of navigation system indoor. So, as I told you, the problem is not to create the environment, because to create the environment you can create a 3D view of all the airport or of all the railway station of Milan using the 360 camera moving around all around the buildings. The problem is to know where you are, because the GPS is not working, because the GPS signal is not getting to the GPS of your phone. So, as I told you, first, if in the airport or in the railway station there are lots of Wi-Fi router, then it's easy, using the distance of your device from the router, the app that you are using calculates your position and tells you, okay, after that shop, turn right and you will reach gate 35. The second tool, the second device, if you don't have Wi-Fi, or if you want more precision, because iBeacon gives much more precision than the Wi-Fi, is the iBeacon. iBeacon is a very little object, the dimension of a key, that you can position in the room. Usually, if you need to do, let's say, a good precision tracking of the people inside the room, you have to position 3 or 4 iBeacon in the room in different position, And the iBeacon is continuously sending one information, his number. So he is continuously say, I am iBeacon 25, I am iBeacon 25, I am iBeacon 25. The app of the museum has inside knows that when you are 25, when you are half meter from iBeacon 25, you are in that position, which is very close to a certain painting, which is very close to a certain opera, which is very close to a certain portrait, and so on. So using the iBeacon, in the same way the GPS is triangulating the signal of the satellites, in the same way the app is triangulating the position of the Wi-Fi router, the app can triangulate the position using the signal coming from the iBeacon. So you have 3 iBeacon, and the app knows that you are 2 meters from that iBeacon, 4 meters from that iBeacon, and 1 meter from this iBeacon. So knows exactly where you are in the room. All these positions are stored, and then the app can send the information to someone who wants to understand how people are moving and stopping, how long they are stopping, where they are going, inside a building, inside a museum, or inside a shop. iBeacon are now, as you can see here, in the retail are very used. So you download the app of the Apple Store, and when you are in an Apple Store, you don't know that there is an iBeacon, but you get close to a shelf, and the app of the Apple stores knows that as you are very close to that iBeacon, you are close to the shelf that is showing the new iPhone, iPad, or whatever, and tells you all the information regarding that shelf. And the same for dresses, the same for painting. As you can see, you have the painting, you have the iBeacon, and in the app, as the app knows you are in front of that painting, will give you all the information you need. Events, so trade show, apps to visit the cities. You can position iBeacon all around the city, and whenever you're moving, if you have downloaded the app of that city, the app knows where you are, the app knows in which direction is your camera directed, and knows that you are trying to take a picture of the Dome of Milan, and give you more information on the Dome of Milan, and so on. The interesting thing about iBeacon is this. That iBeacon don't need to be connected to power, to electric power. So they are very low energy. They consume very low energy, and so when you put an iBeacon, or when you position an iBeacon in a room or on a shelf for 3, 4, 5 years, you don't need to do anything. So they have a battery that lasts 4 years, 5 years. They are cheap in the sense that they cost $2, $3, $2, $3, depending on how much you buy. If you buy 3 iBeacon, probably they will cost $8. If you buy 1,000 iBeacon for the whole museum, you will pay $2, $3. So with $2,000, you can cover the whole museum, and you can give a very interesting service for the people visiting the museum, and you can have back lot of very interesting information regarding how people are moving inside the museum or inside that building. Okay? So remember, indoor positioning is using Wi-Fi. So you know that when you are in a airport and you move and you're looking for Wi-Fi network, you find continuously new Wi-Fi network because there is a shop here, there is a new shop there, and each shop, each bar, each restaurant has its own Wi-Fi. Okay, the app of the airport has mapped all these routers and knows when you move where you are. The app knows you are 5 meters from the Wi-Fi of the Apple Store and 20 meters from the Wi-Fi of the McDonald's and 5 meters from the newspaper Wi-Fi, newspaper shop Wi-Fi. So you are approximately there, okay? So Wi-Fi and iBeacon are, in this moment, the way people are tracked, devices are tracked, are positioned correctly inside the buildings. GPS is the let's say the technology that you can use while outside. Sorry, I go back to my previous slide. Okay. Okay, there is another interesting way to position the device, which is working outside the buildings quite well, which is, going back to the GPS, I wanted to do a couple of samples of the fact that when you don't see the horizon very well, you see less satellites and your position is not correct. I told you, for example, if you are in a forest. But very often, if you are in a city with very narrow road and very high buildings, I would say, for example, if you go in an old city like Venice or Ferrara has very narrow road. If you are in a historic center of the Italian cities, narrow road with high buildings, if you watch the sky, you see that the sky that you see is a very little portion of the sky. In that moment, in the area that you see and your device receives, there can be 1, 2, 3 satellites, but mainly 1 or 2. And so, if you go on Google Maps, on your Google Maps, it happens that you are not positioned in the correct street, but you are positioned in the street which is parallel to yours, so 10, 50, 20 meter errors. You are walking and you see that the GPS is not giving, your telephone is not giving you your real position. You are in a certain part of the road and it seems that you are on the other side or that you are still in the square 20 meters before. The reason is because in that moment, your device, the GPS which is in your device, is not receiving enough signal from the satellites, or the signal is, let's say, reflected by the walls of the buildings, so you don't receive the direct signal, but the signal is getting to your phone reflected. Okay, this is creating some problem to your precise position. This is happening, okay? Cell phone positioning. This slide is explaining very well what is happening. So you're moving, you are somewhere with your cell phone, and around you, 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 50 meters, there are the antennas of your cell phone provider. So these are the antennas of Vodafone, of TIM, or whatever. You have a Vodafone phone card, and so the Vodafone antennas around you are, of course, sending signal to your phone. This signal is not unidirectional, but it is bidirectional. So also your phone gives information to the antennas. So in any moment of the day, your cell phone, when you have signal, it happens that you don't have signal, but most of the time you have signal, your phone is sending some information to the antennas of your telephone provider. The antennas knows how far your phone is from the antenna. So he knows that your phone is distance 100 meters from antenna 1, is 200 meters from antenna 2, is 150 meters from antenna 3. These antennas are of Vodafone. Vodafone can triangulate, do the triangulation of your position, and knows exactly where you are. So in any moment, your telephone provider can and is calculating your position. You know from the newspaper, from the news, that very often thieves are or people who have done some crime is found by the police because of the position of his cell phone. When he did the crime, his cell phone was there, then he's moving, and after 2 days he can be found somewhere else in Italy or abroad. Why? Because he didn't know that his cell phone is continuously giving his position to the provider, to the telephone provider. And so if the police knows your cell phone, can go to your telephone provider and can try to understand how you do move. So whenever you do crime, remember not to keep the phone or not to bring with you the phone. Okay? In the urban areas, the position is very precise, so mistake of some meters. In the extra-urban areas, the position is not so precise because the antennas are very far away. In the city, there is in downtown there is one antenna every 200 meters. In the countryside, there is one antenna every 2-3 kilometers. So the triangulation of antennas very far away from one from the other is less precise than a triangulation of the antenna which is very close to each other. But let's say that even if your position has a mistake of 100 or 200 meters, depending on what you need the position for, but it's not very important. They know that in this moment you are approximately there. They know that in this moment you are inside the stadium watching the football match. They know that in this moment you are in Udine railway station. They know it with a mistake of 10 meters or 200 meters, but you are there, okay? As you can see from this slide, the cell phone positioning is, of course, influenced by the reflection of the information of the signals. If you have high buildings, if you have narrow roads, the same that happens to the GPS. So, of course, your position can have some mistake, as I told you. But it's not, of course, depending on what the position is needed, but usually this is not a very big problem. We don't care to know exactly where a tourist coming from Germany is, if he is in front of this building or in front of that building. We want to know where, if the tourist coming from Germany is in Via Roma or is in Via Mercato Vecchio. So we want to know if he is shopping, if he is going to the railway station, if he is going biking somewhere on a bike road, and so on. Let's go now to a sample or to a use case of how these data are used. So, first of all, remember, we have Tokyo, I see something, sorry. So, first of all, remember that your position is saved inside the server of your phone provider, let's say 1,000 times per day. So whenever you do something on your phone, you send a message, you do a phone call, you install an app, your phone connects to an antenna, and then you move and it connects to another one. Anytime something like this happens, they store the position of your phone, okay? It's important to say that they will not give anyone the position of your phone unless probably the police or something like that. But the providers aggregate this information and sell the information for different purposes. For example, to someone like we have done that is doing analysis on movements of people related to tourism. So, what the provider, what Vodafone, what TIM, what Wind is selling is this. They divide the city, the region, the Italian territory in cell of 150 per 150 meters. So, Palazzo Antonini is 2 or 3 cells. Piazza Primo Maggio, the big square in Udine, is 4 or 5 cells. Okay, this is Piazza Primo Maggio in the center, you see, and this is the division of Udine, of the city of Udine, in cells of 150 per 150 meters. Okay? For each of these cells, they can give you every 15 minutes, the number of people present in this cell. So, at 8 in the morning, in the cell of, in this cell of Piazza Primo Maggio, there were 45 people. At 8:15, there were 60 people. At 8:30, there were 15 people. But they are not only giving you the information of how many people there are inside the cell, but they also give you the information of where these people are coming from. So the country, there were 60 people, and of these 60 people, 2 from Slovenia, 5 from Austria, and 3 from Germany. They don't tell you who they are. They tell you that in total there were 5 from Austria. You don't know who they are. It's important to say this, but you know that there are 5 people from Austria. And regarding the Italians, so there are 30 Italians in that cell in this moment, they tell you from which region they are coming from, if they are resident in that cell, if they are not resident, from which region they are coming from, if they are regular visitors, so there are 3 from Veneto, which are regular visitors. So we have seen them very often in that cell. And there are 2 from Emilia-Romagna, which are occasional visitors. We never saw them in that cell. Occasional visitors of that cell, not of the city of Udine. In other cell, they could have been. Okay. So you have the total coverage of this. Every 15 minutes, the number of people for any, divided in this way. What is the first problem? The first problem